of you is running Umbrel. What is wrong with you, man? See, so it's great to be here today. And Thailand holds such a special place in our hearts because Umbrel was born in Thailand. Just give me one sec. Looks like I need to. Is anyone from Chiang Mai? Oh, sweet. Are you aware of the Lightning Network group? Lightning Network meetup, nice. So like in 2020, there was a meetup at the Lightning Network LNCM community in Chiang Mai, and I presented the first ever UI prototype of Umbrel at that meetup, and guess who was a part of that audience? So that was, that was Luke, my co-founder, and Umbrel's brilliant CTO. So Luke and I had only met like six months before that meetup. 2 weeks before that meetup, and 6 months after that meetup, we decided to team up and start building Umbrel. So that was right in the pandemic. So Thailand is not just special because Umbrel was born here, but also because we continue to live here and continue to build Umbrel from here. So it's great to be here. All right, let's dive in. What are we building at Umbrel? Well, most of us use cloud services every day, and our data is stored at third-party servers who then use it against us. And as the old saying goes, if there's no cloud, it's just someone else's computer. But we don't believe it has to be that way. We believe the cloud can also be a computer that you can own and bring to your home, and that computer is what we call a home server, right? So our goal is to build a super simple way for anyone to be able to run a home server and host cloud services at their home. So the benefit of that is that when you run a home server, you can ditch the cloud, truly own your data, and you don't have to rely on third-party services. So our goal is to make it as easy as possible, zero technical skills required. Luke is going to walk you through a demo later after a couple of minutes, and you'll see it for yourself. So the way you would run a home server is using Umbrel OS, and Umbrel OS is let's just pretend a beautiful animation. Oh, it's actually happening. Okay, see. So this is Umbrel OS, a screenshot you can see. Again, it's all browser-based, so no matter what device you're running your home server on, just like you can control what apps you run on your phone, your computer, you can decide what apps you can run on your home server. So you can see a couple of apps here on the screenshot, like a Bitcoin node, obviously. Nextcloud, which is like a Google Drive replacement. So you can store your documents, files. Plex is basically kind of like your own self-hosted Netflix. And Lightning Node and a couple other apps. So we're going to focus exclusively today on the Bitcoin-specific use cases. But before we get into that, let's first talk about what exactly a Bitcoin node is, right? So a Bitcoin node is a computer that participates in the Bitcoin network, right? And it does that by storing a copy of the blockchain data and enforcing consensus rules. So it independently verifies every single block and every single transaction in the network. It communicates with other nodes to relay new transactions and new blocks to other nodes across the network. And it rejects any transaction or block that doesn't comply with the rules of the network, right? So it's enforcing consensus at the network level. Now the question is why should you run your own Bitcoin node? And the simplest answer to that is that if you don't run a Bitcoin node right now, you are literally trusting someone else's node. And the way it works is that whenever you're using your wallet to transact with the Bitcoin network, your transaction is going through someone else's node, and your balances and any data you're fetching, like how much Bitcoin you hold, is coming from someone else's node out there. So you're not only trusting them to not lie to you, but you're also trusting them to not leak your addresses, balances, or like correlate them to your IP address. So in a way, you have like a middleman in between you and the Bitcoin network. And when you run a Bitcoin node, it's essentially just talking to yourself at that point without any middleman, right? So in short, to sum up, you step up your security by running a Bitcoin node because it's completely trustless. You're verifying all the transactions and blocks yourself. And it gets you the ultimate privacy, again, because you're not relying on third-party services. You're not leaking your transactions, balances, addresses, or IP address to them. And it decentralizes the network, but there's a catch here. It only decentralizes. Many people think that if I just like run a node and it's gonna like magically decentralize the network. There's more to it. You need to use your run for it to be called an economic node, which decentralizes the network. So if you have got a node, it's linked up to your wallet, you're using it as a backend for your mempool.space or any block explorer, then it's literally decentralizing the network because you're relying on it. So now let's talk about how to run a Bitcoin node and get started. So the way you would run a Bitcoin node is you would install Umbrel OS, get started with it, and there's two ways to go about it. One is you bring your own hardware, like a Raspberry Pi, Pi 4, Pi 5, any mini PC. There's also other ways to install, but we won't get into them. You can find the installation instructions on our website, umbrel.com, and you can get our OS for free. Everything else is free. The Bitcoin node app is free. So you just bring your own hardware. Or the second way is you do plug and play with our own little device called Umbrel Home. And you can buy it from our website, 13,900 baht. Also happy to share there's no custom duties and taxes for anyone buying in Thailand or anywhere else as well. So it's got a 2 terabyte SSD, 16 gigs of RAM, and a quad-core Intel CPU. So both the ways, whichever works best for you. And now I'd like to hand things over to Luke. He's going to walk you through the process of setting up a Bitcoin node on Umbrel OS, and he's going to use an Umbrel Home for demonstration purposes. So he's going to start from scratch with a new Umbrel Home, walk you through the setup, and then going to switch over to a pre-synced Bitcoin node on another Umbrel Home. And depending upon the time left, because I guess like many of you would be hungry for the lunch, but if you have some time, we can fit in a couple of questions. Right, Luke, take it away. You don't have setup right now. Yeah, or we are trying to figure out the setup because we need like a couple of Ethernet cables, but if anyone's got any questions so far, feel free to ask.
What is it based on?
Yeah, so what is Umbrel OS based on? So Umbrel OS is before 1.0, so our latest release is 1.0. Before 1.0, it wasn't technically an OS. It was installed on top of a Linux distribution. And now Umbrel OS is based on Debian as the backend. So we kind of like use a minimal base of Debian with a minimal amount of packages, only like basic packages, like for networking and like bootstrapping a couple of things. And then it's all like our binaries on top. And the code is all on our GitHub, and you could do your own OS build from scratch. Anything else? Yeah, so the question is like on other nodes, you could also run a couple of other things like Electrum servers. Yeah, so great question. You could do the same here. Luke's going to walk you through the process of not just setting up a Bitcoin node, but also setting up an Electrum server, a Lightning node. And the cool thing is, so for people who are not aware what an Electrum server is, an Electrum server talks to a Bitcoin node, and then it provides data as an easy API to other things. And most people use it for like wallets. So are you guys aware of like Sparrow Wallet, Blue Wallet, Electrum Wallet, right? All of them use Electrum servers. And the way those wallets work is that usually they talk to publicly available Electrum servers, right? But if you run your own Electrum server, which requires running a Bitcoin node, then you can connect your wallet directly to your Electrum server. So you can run an Electrum server on Umbrel. There's an app called Electrus on our App Store. And once you're running Electrus, you can also run mempool, mempool.space, like a block explorer, because it also needs Electrum server. So mempool's also an app in our store, and get going with that. Any other questions? Sweet. How are we getting on? Yeah. See.
Hello. Thanks, Mike. Hello, everyone. Sorry, give me 2 seconds. Thank you. It's done? So I'm going to demo and walk you through setting up an Umbrel Home from scratch. So I've got an Umbrel Home device here. You would just go and plug this into your router via the Ethernet cable, and then power on the device. So we don't have any, there's no need to connect like a keyboard or a mouse or a monitor to the device. It works purely over the network. So you just plug this device into your router, and then with like an iPhone or a laptop or any other client device you have, on the same network, you just visit umbrel.local in your browser, and that should take you to the setup screen. So we're going to go ahead and create an account now. So this is actually creating an account on the device. So this isn't an account on the internet. This is an account that exists on the physical device in your own home. So we'll create a username now and a password, and click create, and we're done. So we now have our device set up with an account running on our own network, and we're connecting over the local network. So we give some suggestions to people to set up the initial apps. So we'll talk about the Bitcoin apps in a minute in the center. There's also the streaming apps on the right, which is kind of like for running like a self-hosted Netflix within your own home network. And then on the left, we have apps for self-hosters. So for example, Nextcloud is kind of like an alternative to Google Drive that you have complete control of. Image is like an alternative to Google Photos. Home Assistant allows you to control smart devices in your own home. And Pi-hole does like network-wide ad blocking. So let's see how simple it is to install an app. So we'll go to install the Bitcoin Node app. We just one-click install from the App Store. This is now going to pull down the app and install it on your physical device. And this is the Bitcoin app. This is now running our own self-sovereign Bitcoin node. It's going to start to sync the blockchain. This normally takes about 12 hours on Umbrel to complete. But I've got another device here that we can move over to show it when it's fully set up. So just to recap, we've set up a device from scratch, created an account, installed a Bitcoin node, and that's it. That's all done to this point. So let's have a quick look at Umbrel OS. So we have our App Store here. We can take a look at some of the apps. So we've got a lot of apps on the App Store. There's the Bitcoin node, which we just installed. You can run your own Lightning node and connect it to your own Blue Wallet app. Bitfeed, which is a popular block explorer. You can run a Liquid node, a layer 2 node. Core Lightning, which is an alternative Lightning implementation. The Lightning node app, which we'll look at in a little bit. LMBits, mempool to run your own block explorer. Public pool, so you can mine on your own. And loads more apps. And also, we have non-Bitcoin apps in the App Store as well. There's loads of things you can take a look at. On Umbrel OS, you can go into settings. I might need to stop the Bitcoin app from syncing during the demo, just so it doesn't slow the internet down. 2 seconds. Yeah. So I'll just move over to the fully synced node. So this is we've moved over to a different Umbrel device now, which I set up last night, and this has everything synced. So now if we take a look at the Bitcoin Node app, you can see this is fully synced to 100%. This is the latest block that was mined a minute ago. We can take a look at our peers. So we're connected to 5 ClearNet peers, 5 Tor peers, and 1 I2P peer. So these are totally separate networks and separate ways to connect to the Bitcoin network. So this gives us a really good, robust connection to the network, because 2 out of 3 of these networks can have issues and we still have a good connection. For example, if the Tor network was under a denial of service attack and I2P was banned in your country, you still have 5 ClearNet peers, so you still have a good connection to the Bitcoin network. The way that the Bitcoin Node app is set up out of the box makes sense for 99% of people, but if you want to change anything, you can go into advanced settings, and we expose pretty much everything that you can do with a Bitcoin node in here. So, for example, you could disable Tor, or you can force all the traffic to go through Tor, and pretty much anything else you'd want to do, you can do from here. So that's a Bitcoin node, but how do we actually get apps to talk to the Bitcoin node? So most wallets won't directly talk to your Bitcoin node, but you need some other software that runs in front of them. So Electrus is kind of it runs a database of every single address on the Bitcoin blockchain and stores the balance for all of those addresses. So we can tell our wallet to use Electrus, and then it'll be backed by our Bitcoin node. So I can demo setting that up on Blue Wallet right now. So if I open Blue Wallet, so we have our wallet here. If we go into settings and then click on network and then click on Electrum server, it says we're connected, but it has this address, electrum1.bluewallet.io. So right now, we're not running a Bitcoin, this wallet is not connected to our Bitcoin node. We're just trusting what Blue Wallet tell us is actually the truth. And they can also see everything about our wallet and our transactions. So we can change this to talk to our own Bitcoin node. So if I go back to the Electrus app, I copy the address from here. I copy the port from here and paste it in here. And then it says make sure SSL is disabled. So we disable that and click save. Now if we restart Blue Wallet, we can see everything seems to be working like normal. And if we go back into the settings and check again and go to network, Electrum server, we can see it now says connected, Umbrel demo.local. So now the wallet that we're using, it's the same Blue Wallet that we know and are familiar with, but now every time we're receiving a transaction, it's not asking the Blue Wallet server, has this transaction been received? It's asking our own physical Umbrel server, and it's validating everything by the rules of our full node. It's kind of the most self-sovereign and the most private way to use Bitcoin. So there are other things we can do with the Bitcoin node. So for example, instead of going to the mempool space block explorer on the internet, we can run the mempool app on our Umbrel. So here's the mempool app in our app store. I already have it installed, so I can just click to open. If you don't have it installed, it's one click to install. Now, this is allowing us to see all the information on our Bitcoin node. So this is the latest block mined 2 minutes ago. We can have a look at that. We can see all of the transactions in there. So let's say we received a transaction, for example, the latest transaction we received in this wallet. If we get the transaction ID, so I'm going to copy that from here, and then we go to our own mempool.space instance, and then search for this transaction ID in here, we can actually see the transaction in our own block explorer. So normally, if you check this on mempool.space on the public website, you're just trusting that they're telling you that this transaction exists, and they also learn, they can link your IP address to this transaction, they learn what you're doing. But when you're checking this on your own mempool.space instance on your Umbrel, all of this communication is happening within your own home. There's no data being leaked. There's no way you can be tracked. It's all internal to your own private network. We can also run our own Lightning node on Umbrel. So if I find the Lightning node app, so I already have this installed as well. It's also just a one-click install. I set this up last night, so we have a channel already opened. We can go to receive an invoice on here. And then if I go to pay that with my wallet on my phone, which I'm now paying right now. If I can get my Lightning wallet to work. Okay, I don't think I can do that right now. But this is running a Lightning node on our own Umbrel. This is like the most private, most self-sovereign way to use Lightning. It's very, like, you can't be censored. It's not like a custodial wallet where the service provider can ban you. You can open your own channels and yeah, receive payments in the most self-sovereign way. There's also a really great app called Tailscale. And Tailscale, what Tailscale does is it creates like a secure connection between all your devices. So you can install the Tailscale app on your Umbrel, and then the Tailscale app on your phone, and the Tailscale app on your like computer, and then all of your devices can talk to each other over the internet, even though the Umbrel is on your home network. So for example, my Umbrel is in my apartment in Chiang Mai right now, but while I'm here at the conference, via Tailscale, I can access my Umbrel on my phone and do anything that I'd want to do on it without needing to be on the same local network. And so there's also, so this is a quick run through of all the like Bitcoin use cases. We also have anything that you would want to run on a home server, you can run on Umbrel. So one example that we have is a private Nostr relay. So if I bring up the Nostr relay in the App Store, again, this is one click to install. I've already installed it last night. So if I open this app, now the idea behind this app is it's a private relay. So this is not for anybody who's like not familiar with Nostr, you would normally connect to like public relays, which are public servers that relay everyone's posts. The idea behind this app is that it's a private relay that you run at home on your own device. And then when you're interacting with the Nostr network, everything that you do on the Nostr network is getting backed up privately to your own device. So we have this connection string here in the top right. So if I copy that and then add that to a Nostr client on my phone, which I've now added, if I go through and if I like a post on Nostr, which I'm going to do now, you can see it gets backed up in real time. So as I go through and like this, it's getting backed up on my Nostr relay on my Umbrel. So now anything I do on the Nostr network from this point forwards on my phone is going to be replicated to my device and backed up. But what about all my like historic post history that I've done over the last few years on Nostr? So if I click this button, you can add your NIP5 address or your NPub. So my NIP5 is lu.ke. And if I enter this, it's going to search for my Nostr account on all the public relays, scrape them for all of my historic posts over the last few years and back them up. So if I add this now, it's now going to connect to all the public relays, search for my NPub on Nostr, and it's now backing every single post I've ever made, every DM, every like, up to my Umbrel device. So now what this means is, let's say I got deplatformed from Nostr, like let's say some of the large Nostr relays start censoring me and I basically get banned from all those relays. I could connect to a new relay, but I've lost all my old post history. But because all my post history is backed up on my device, I can join a new relay if I get banned off the current relays, and then just push all my historic posts back to the new relay, and nobody can deplatform me, nobody can censor me. I have full ownership of all of my data on Nostr. One other cool thing about Umbrel OS, so in the settings, you can like customize your Umbrel, so you can change like the wallpaper and the appearance. We support Wi-Fi, so I just demoed the connection over Ethernet, but you can also connect to a Wi-Fi network, and then you don't need to be near your router, you can have the device anywhere in your own home. You can set up 2FA, so instead of just having a password, you can also have 2FA. This also secures all of your apps on Umbrel, so it adds a high amount of security. We have an automated migration assistant. If you're currently running Umbrel on a Raspberry Pi, you just plug your Raspberry Pi's USB device, like the USB storage device, into your Umbrel home, and it will automatically migrate everything over for you. Lots more settings in there. And we also recently added widgets in Umbrel 1.0. So you can see on the home screen here, this is showing me the amount of storage space that's been used overall on my Umbrel. This is showing me how far like the sync progress is on my Bitcoin node, and this is giving me like a preview of the Lightning wallet. And we have like widgets built into the operating system, but then also like apps that you install can add their own widgets. For example, if I like remove the Lightning widget, I can then add like the Nostr relay widget, and it's going to show me all the posts that I do in real time there. So that's a quick overview of Umbrel OS. Do we have any questions?
If you fill up the storage, is there an option to like plug in external hard drives or another home server?
So currently, no, but that's been a very highly requested feature, and that's something that we're working on at the moment. So yeah, that should be coming.
How can I connect my hardware wallet to one?
Your hardware wallet?
Yeah.
So Umbrel integrates with like software wallets. So like it could be like Blue Wallet or Electrum or Wasabi. But then if you're using a hardware wallet, that hardware wallet would normally connect to a software wallet. So for example, I demoed setting up Blue Wallet just then, but you could also pair a hardware wallet with Blue Wallet. So your hardware wallet talks to Blue Wallet and Blue Wallet talks to your Umbrel. So we support every hardware wallet just because we support most software wallets, which then in turn support most hardware wallets.
I use Trezor. I use my app in Trezor.
Okay. So you could use your Trezor hardware wallet. I believe Electrum supports Trezor. So you could use instead of using the official Trezor app, you could use the Electrum app, and that will connect to your Trezor, and then Electrum will connect to your Umbrel. I believe, yeah, Trezor Suite does actually support a custom Electrum server. So I think the setup flow that I demoed with Blue Wallet, I think that works in the Trezor Suite as well, but I'm not sure exactly what the process is to run through that. But I'm pretty sure they support that. Yeah, I think you might need to run a piece of software on your computer alongside Trezor Suite. Is that right? Oh, that was for Ledger. Yeah, I'm not totally sure, but I'm pretty confident they do support it.
From the demo, it's very interesting to see multiple apps being used. I'm not a technical person, but I heard some comments that it might not be a good practice to have both your main Bitcoin node and a bunch of other things like the Nostr relay.
Yeah.
But from the way you're showing, it seems to work really well. Do you have any comments on this type of worry?
Yeah, that's a really great question. In Umbrel, we use some technology called Docker, and it creates like an isolated sandbox around every single app. So the way it works on Umbrel is we have like Bitcoin node running in its own isolated sandbox, and then every other app is in its own isolated sandbox. When you install an app from the App Store, for example, we've got the Bitcoin node app installed. By default, no app can talk to any other app. So if an app was like, so this is the criticism, is like if you run your Bitcoin node next to Nostr relay, what if there's some insecure thing in the Nostr relay? Can that then get access to your Bitcoin node? So by default on Umbrel, every app is isolated. So if there was an issue with the Nostr relay, there's no way it can talk to the Bitcoin node. But then like, how do we make apps work with each other? So for example, Electrum does need to talk to the Bitcoin node. So when you're installing an app, if I go to the App Store page for Electrum, down here it says requires Bitcoin node. So in fact, let me install a new app so you can see what the flow looks like. If I go to install, what's a Bitcoin app that I can show you? So if I go to install Bitfeed right now, by default, every app is sandbox, so Bitfeed wouldn't be able to talk to Bitcoin. But when I go to install it, it asks me, it says Bitfeed requires access to Bitcoin node. So it asks me for permission, and then when I click continue, now the sandbox has been loosened between specifically the Bitfeed app and the Bitcoin app, so they can talk to each other. But the Bitfeed app can't talk to, for example, the Lightning app. So if Bitfeed got compromised, it can't then take funds out my Lightning node. So it's a really great question, and it's a good concern, but I feel like we've mitigated this to like a pretty high level on Umbrel. And normally the people who kind of would say that that's a bad idea would advise that you have separate physical devices. So they would say have one physical device with all your Bitcoin software on, and then another physical device with like Nostr stuff. But that doesn't actually fully mitigate the issue, because for example, if the Nostr server gets compromised, it's on a separate physical device, but it's probably on the same local network. So there's still a potential that it can attack across the network. In our like sandboxing technology on Umbrel, we even isolate at the network level. So we have like a virtual network inside the Umbrel where every single app can't even see the other apps on this virtual network. So it's like an extremely high level of isolation that in some degrees, is even more isolated than having like separate physical devices on the same local network. Yeah, thanks. That's a really good question. Anybody else?
I think it looks really good. I'm definitely gonna try it out when I go on my phone. And my question is, how do you guys make money? What's the business model?
Yeah, great question. So our business model is selling hardware. So the software is free, so you can download it for free and run on your own hardware. That's totally free. But we sell like our own hardware, which we think gives the best experience. So that's how we make money. We sell hardware.
If I only use Bitcoin as a saving, is it important to me to run node?
Sorry, could you say that again?
I only saving Bitcoin, but is it important to run node?
Oh, you mean, is it important to run a Bitcoin node?
Yes.
Yeah. So you can use Bitcoin without running a Bitcoin node. And you can also take ownership of your Bitcoin without running a Bitcoin node. For example, if you use like Blue Wallet, you own your own private keys. It's more of an issue of like, the reason you would run a Bitcoin node is like trust and privacy.
Oh.
So if you're running like Blue Wallet without running a node, you just have the app. You have ownership of your private keys, but you're trusting like somebody out there to run a Bitcoin node and tell you the truth. So for example, if I send you a Bitcoin payment, you don't actually know that you've received those Bitcoin. You just have to, your wallet app is gonna talk to somebody else who's running a node and say, hey,
Okay.
did this person send me Bitcoin? And you just like believe that it's true. You also leak your privacy to that person because they can see your Bitcoin address, they can see how much you're getting paid. If you run your own Bitcoin node and you connect the app to your own Bitcoin node, when I send you a payment, you don't need to ask anybody else to know if you received that payment. Your Bitcoin node is telling you 100%, like this person has sent you a Bitcoin payment. You can trust it without relying on anyone else.
Proof by myself, right?
Sorry?
Proof by myself.
Yeah, you can prove it by yourself. So it's completely trustless, like the way the Bitcoin protocol works. So when I showed earlier that we were connecting to all those different peers, like we don't actually trust them. The way the protocol works, it's trustless. So you're just verifying these rules on your own. There's no way anyone can lie to you or trick you if you're running a full node.
Thank you.
Yep.
If I make something wrong on my side and the umbrella is in my residence, somehow can my actions be tracked to my MAC address? I understand that you have car, but can I click something wrong and then everything that I'm doing is now
Yeah.
my MAC address?
So no, the way that Umbrella works out the box, that's not an issue. Some people do something called enable port forwarding on a router, which then allows like services to be exposed over the internet publicly. If you do that, then you can run into these issues where your IP address gets leaked. For example, if you run a Lightning node and you turn this setting on, this is not a setting in Umbrel, by the way, this is something you have to go and manually do in your router, then anybody who's connecting to you can see your IP address, and from there they can figure out roughly where you live. So this is bad for privacy. We intentionally don't support that in Umbrel because this is a risk. But still, some people want to expose things publicly, which we currently don't have a good way to do in Umbrel. It works great if you're accessing it like privately, just for you, but if you want to expose something like to everybody, we have some solutions in the work for how we can solve this problem in a way that does not have any privacy risks, but we haven't fully implemented those yet.
Same thing for the Nostr relay?
So for the Nostr relay, the idea behind the Nostr relay is a private Nostr relay. So the Tailscale app that I talked about, it creates a private encrypted channel between all your devices. So when you install the Nostr relay on your Umbrel and you have the Tailscale app installed on your Umbrel and your MacBook and your MacBook and your iPhone can all connect to your Nostr relay over Tailscale, but it's not public. Nobody else on the internet can connect to it. So the way everything on Umbrel is built today is all geared around secure private access that works over the internet, but we don't have a good way to expose it publicly because we haven't yet come up with a working solution for the privacy risks that you mentioned. You mean like if the security feature that we mentioned like failed to work and then somehow these apps could talk? Yeah, so by default, this can't happen on Umbrel. But let's say like that system didn't work properly. The downside would really be like, could be quite bad. So it would be like, if you have a Lightning node that has access to funds, then in theory, like those funds could be stolen. If you had an Electrum server that was connecting to your own Bitcoin wallet that you're doing for privacy reasons, and you had some compromised app that could somehow see everything, it could kind of like track the things that you're doing. But yeah, the sandbox that we have mitigates that. Any more questions? Okay, yeah, thanks for coming.